think it's one of the most beautiful spots on any river. I'm a huge Mark Twain fan, and when I read Mark Twain and think about Mark Twain, I think about this section of Covington because it's a true river town. It's what America is all about. It's beautiful.
I really enjoy living here in Northern Kentucky. I came up here about 20 years ago, and I said if I ever lived here permanently, I want to be on the Ohio River.
When we shopped around the greater Cincinnati area to find a place to live, Covington stood out for a variety of reasons. One is because it has great history and great old houses, and we like being able to walk everywhere. But then also being here between two rivers, between the Licking and the Ohio, is really a very special thing. You know, where we stand here, it's this area called the Point, which was where the first pioneers would congregate, where Native Americans would congregate. So it's always been a very important part of the world.
So there's renewed interest in people moving back into the urban core, and Covington is seeing a lot of that. Covington is of a scale, it's very comfortable, it's walkable, the people are friendly, the people feel welcomed here, but yet we're right across the river from Cincinnati, so we have all the neat things of a metropolitan area, but we have the quaintness and what I like to call the quirkiness of a small little community. And I think people are beginning to realize that this is something that we need to protect and build upon, and it does make us special.
I think it's important to help this area in terms of its appreciation of the waterfront and its water resources, because we want to be a metropolitan area that succeeds. And those parts of the country that recognize that water is essential for life, essential for recreation, essential for natural systems, natural ecosystems. And if you don't value those, then you don't get people that value their surroundings, and that doesn't make for a good environment for people or organisms or anybody else. So it's important for our region to be successful that we recognize our river and place some resources behind it to fix what ails it.
We noticed a lot of changes over the years on the riverbank, where the distance between the sidewalk and the riverbank is probably a fourth of what it was that I can recall when I first moved to the neighborhood. It's at the point where it's almost getting scary that a little bit more and you're going to have the sidewalk coming down in some places.
This section of the Covington Riverbank is in bad shape. And the steps going down have been undercut. The bank used to be the substrate, and the bank has eroded to the extent where really the steps don't have any support at all, so they're closed.
Besides the erosion on the bank itself, if you go to where the Licking River goes into the Ohio River, there is an historic stone wall that was built. And I forget, that stone wall is probably about 30 feet tall. Well, the foundation of that wall is being undermined, and if we don't stabilize it, it's going to go. So that's one of our biggest concerns.
So the river wants to go somewhere. There's only one place for that river to go in this section of the river, here, because this is the place that has an unobstructed bank, and everything else works against it. The velocity of the water, the erosive potential of the water, it's not good.
The basic problem goes back to the fact that 50 years ago a dam was constructed, and that caused the water level to be 22 feet higher than it used to be, and that's permanent. And what that does is it increases the erosion. Now, there's always natural erosion that's going on, but this has been exacerbated by the building of the Markland Dam. So along the Ohio River, we have infrastructure that's fallen into the water, and basically, the stairs are going to disappear here soon if something isn't done. And along our property, along the Licking River, we've seen very severe erosion. In fact, we've lost 5 or 6 large 45-foot trees just since we've lived here. So I see our property, eroding and heading down to the Gulf of Mexico.
what's happened all up and down the river, we've built cities all up and down the river. We've destroyed floodplains, which soak up water, wetlands. Over 50% of the wetlands in this country are gone. Everything across the river, everything upstream, and everything pretty much downstream are all concrete and flood walls. And so, unfortunately, not only is this bank, which is a fairly natural bank, in bad shape today, it's going to get worse. In the short term, what we can do is use natural systems to try to reduce stormwater runoff. If you drive through Covington, you see concrete and buildings everywhere, streets, sidewalks, everywhere. There's not very much green stuff. Lawn is worthless in terms of absorbing water, and it's cut, which is even worse. And so Sanitation District Number 1 in Northern Kentucky is really promoting the use of green infrastructure solutions to help reduce stormwater runoff, and we got to support it.
In the last decade or so, we've had a really great emergence of a new science called bioengineering that allows people to use softer techniques, I'd say, using natural vegetation, natural materials, and those would then help us to try to bring back a natural riverbank such as what existed here before the dam. Now, there would have to be a mix of some materials that were resistant to high flow. You know, there could be willows, there could be grasses, there could be other areas that would be just conducive for people, you know, getting people to go to the water's edge. And ultimately that's what we want to do, is make it a place where people want to be.
We need to begin changing our notion of aesthetics, because what we think of as aesthetic today doesn't work in terms of managing erosion.
In stabilizing the bank, we also want to create some public spaces, some trails, some places where people can gather, where some music venues can happen, and a couple places where some maybe new riverfront development can occur. We did get money from the federal government to pay for the Corps' feasibility study, and then once we have that, which we're probably about a year or 2 years away, then we can begin getting the funds to build it.
I really love living here in Northern Kentucky. I love seeing the action that is going on the Ohio River. But it concerns me greatly about the riverbank, and I think that we really need to go ahead and do something about that. And we have a great project, but it's not going to come about for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. We need to have some action right now so that all of us can enjoy the riverbanks like we all would like to do.